Mr. Falano, let me get your take. Should the money have gone to Delta State government, what's your reaction to the Attorney General's defense of the money going into the federal government's coffers?
Well, no doubt the federal government ought to be commended for pursuing this matter, having regards to the fact that this case was a product of the collaboration between the EFCC under Malam Nuhu Ribadu and the Metropolitan Police, in the UK. But having said that, having acknowledged the role of the federal government, the fund has to be returned to the source. Factually, between 1999 and 2003, the Delta State government, like other state governments in Nigeria, received its statutory allocations on a monthly basis and paid same into the account of the government. From that account, some amount was alleged to have been diverted and taken to the United Kingdom by the then governor, Chief James Ibori. Now, the law caught up with him in the UK and Nigeria, and so he was convicted, his lawyer was convicted, his banker was convicted. So these funds were traced to the three of them. And as the Honorable Attorney General has said, the money is over £100 million. So what has been released now is the first tranche of £4.2 million. But again, as I said, since the money left the coffers of the Delta State government, it has to be returned once it is recovered. Having regards to the fact that the federal government cannot, under any law, under local or international law, lay claim to the money. As I said, pursuant to Section 162 of the Constitution, the Delta State government received the money from the Federation account and banked same in its account where it was taken, and, to the United Kingdom. Now the money has been confiscated there. It's now being repatriated to Nigeria. It has to be returned to the source. Because in the case of the Attorney General of Lagos State and the Attorney General of the Federation, the Supreme Court made the point, without a court order, the federal government cannot confiscate or seize money, belonging to local government or any other tier of either the local government or the state government. So I believe in this case, the money will have to be paid to the account of the Delta State government. Yeah, the government cannot rely on any law that allows the confiscation of the money or the disbursement of the money to taros outside Delta State.
Well, as the case is right now, we understand that it was an international offense relying on also a federal offense, that it wasn't a local offense. And in fact, when these funds was being fought for, the Delta State government was not in the picture. These are some of the legal perspective that we've gotten into this matter. And you're saying
it was not a federal offense, it was an offense in the United Kingdom. It wasn't convicted here. It was convicted in the United Kingdom under their own law. And so, under international law, and I'm talking of Article 35 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, ratified by both Nigeria and the United Kingdom, the money, any money that is recovered, any proceed of corruption that is recovered, will have to be spent, compensate the victim. You have to spend the money to compensate the victims of the process, of the corrupt practice. In this case, the federal government is not the victim, but the people of Delta State and the government of Delta State. And if you are talking about precedent in Nigeria, because there is a precedent, that will guide the action of the federal government. When the fund recovered from or confiscated from Governor Joshua Dariye in the United Kingdom was recovered and repatriated to Nigeria, it was paid, it was remitted to the account of the Plateau State government. In the same vein, when Governor DSP Alamesia was convicted in the United Kingdom and about 1 million pounds was recovered. Yeah, some of 1 million pounds was recovered, repatriated to Nigeria. It was also paid to the Bayelsa state government. So what is good for the goose is good for the gander. So the federal government cannot, on the basis of precedent, treat Delta State differently. If you are going by another section of the Constitution, Section 42 of the Constitution, discrimination is prohibited. So you cannot discriminate against the Delta State government and favor, Bayelsa and Plateau State in the same circumstance. So this is, as far as the law is concerned, the case of the federal government is very, very weak. I mean, it would be a different matter if the federal government has said, oh, we are going to use this money, with the consent of the Delta State government to tar the road between Asaba and Warri and Benin. You want to construct roads in the state, but to simply yank the money or confiscate the money and decide to go and spend it on Kano Abuja Road or Lagos Ibadan Road is totally unacceptable.
With
Totally
what we see,
unacceptable.
so I would like you to also give us specifics of what the law says. Does the law say that the money had to be returned to the coffers of Delta State or used to the benefit of the victim, Delta State as a victim in this sense?
No, I am talking of Article 35 of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which provides that once the proceeds of crime is recovered, corrupt practice is recovered, the money will have to be spent on compensating the victim. In this case, the victims are the government and people of Delta State, not the federal government.
So what I'm saying,
the money will have to be spent on
Mr. Falano, so what I was asking is, should the money have been given cash to Delta State government, or the federal government should have used the money in a prosecuting project for Deltans or the Delta State government for Delta State?
No, the federal government has no local standard with respect to how the money is spent. That is left for the people of Delta State to monitor the government of that state to ensure that the fund is not reluted. But to say that the federal government will, the federal government cannot grandstand on this manner. In fact, the memorandum of understanding referred to by the Attorney General, signed in London, smacks of colonialism. I mean, Britain cannot, decide on how recovered loot should be spent. In fact, what I expect the Attorney General or the federal government to do in the circumstance is to collaborate with the Delta State government to ensure that the banks that were housed the looted wealth of Delta State or the banks involved are made to pay colossal damages and interest for denying the people of Delta State the opportunity to use the money for development. And there are cases that have been handled this way.
So, Mr. Falana, apologies again too. So, shouldn't the Delta State government be taking this head on? Because directly, they are supposed to be asking for this.
The Delta State government, the Delta State government will have no choice because we are talking of over £100 million. That is a lot of money under, this economy, under this peripheral capitalist system. That's a lot of money where the economy is being dollarized on a daily basis by the central bank, to the detriment of the national economy. So this is a huge sum of money that cannot just be left in the coffers of the federal government.
We are due for our first break, Mr. Falano. So,
and the Delta State government is the owner.
Yeah, we are due for our first break. I'm just looking at a very tough road for the federal government because on the basis of which the government of the UK is releasing this money is for those 3 projects. So, but when we come back from the break, we look at that legal hurdle for some other issues relating to what we saw today where Labour leaders stormed the National Assembly over minimum wage. We get your legal view on that too. But we'll take a moment, everyone, to take a breather. I'll be right back. Join us again, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. We have Mr. Femi Falana, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, rights activist, who's been talking to us from Abuja. Thank you so much, Mr. Falana. So I was giving that premise on which the minister told us yesterday that the only way, or the premise on which the UK government released the funds is because of some of these projects that are being used. And I remember vividly, Mr. Falana, if you also can remember when some civil society organizations have pushed that monies that were looted and repatriated are being relooted. And so some governments who were housed this money are saying the basis of which we'll release this money is when we know in specific the project which these monies are going to be released. But give us an understanding of how difficult for Nigeria this money will come in 2 weeks for them to now bypass the agreement upon which this £4.2 million was released.
Well, thank you very much, Seun. As far as the Constitution is concerned, any memorandum of understanding or agreement or treaty signed or entered into by the federal government and another country will have to be domesticated in Nigeria under or by virtue of Section 12 of the Nigerian Constitution. Once that agreement has not been domesticated, it does not have the force of law in Nigeria. So any memorandum of understanding or agreement will have to be read subject to the Constitution of Nigeria. So there isn't much in that agreement. And I am saying, morally and legally, the British government cannot dictate to Delta State what to do with its own money. That is the prerogative of the House of Assembly of that state to appropriate the money that has been paid back into the account of that state, having been recovered in the United Kingdom. That's the law.
Another angle to this, I mean, this has caused a lot of debate. You remember what had happened in the past when Mr. Ribadu, the then EFCC chairman, said he was given a $15 million bribe by the former governor. The government yes. of Delta State at the time said there was no money missing from our coffers. In that sense, if you also look at the judgment where this money is, this indictment was made in the United Kingdom and all of the premise, do you still think that it might be easy to get the money to Delta State?
With respect to those who have canvassed that argument, I'm aware of the facts of that case. And the case was decided in Abuja here by the Honorable Justice Gabriel Kolawole now of the Court of Appeal. And that was when the Delta State government said, oh, the $15 million bribe paid to Mr. Ribadu, which he submitted, to the federal government, was not from the account of the Delta State government. That judgment was limited to the $15 million bribe. It does not cover all other recoveries made later, as in this case. So that case is totally irrelevant and inapplicable to the facts on ground. The case in England was fought from the High Court to the Court of Appeal. The defendant lost totally, which led the government, the courts in the United Kingdom to order that the fund be recovered and repatriated to Nigeria. In fact, the trial judge in these cases, the trial judges, in fact, one of them expressed agony, disappointment with the fact that this huge money has left the poverty-stricken state, Delta State in the Niger Delta region. The court said that. It didn't say, oh, this money belongs to the federal government.
So, I mean, With
So the
what
federal government, as I said, should be commended for pursuing this matter.
So should the federal government go ahead and spend this money legally, what will happen?
No, the federal government will have to be challenged. More so that there is a precedent. You cannot treat equals unequally. Where you had returned money stolen from the accounts of Bayelsa State and the accounts of Delta State, Plateau State. When it comes to Delta, the law cannot be different. The treatment cannot be different. If you do that, the government will be accused of having committed, a constitutional infraction with respect to freedom from discrimination. And for me, the Delta State government has the right to go to court. And I'm aware, I can tell you here, Chief, I can say this, Chief Edwin Clark, another, statesman from that state, has already given us instructions to pursue this matter if the Delta State government will not take it up.
But would yes. Would you have a locus standing in that matter?
Court, obviously.
Would you have a locus in that regard?
No, I'm the lawyer. It's Chief.
No, that I'm saying you and your client.
Of course, as a citizen. Of that, he has the locus. The law of locus standi has been expanded by the Supreme Court in the case of Awemi and Akilu, where the court said, we are all our brothers keepers. So, Chief Edwin Clark will be saying, I'm playing the role of my brother's keepers by ensuring that the people of Delta State, are given the opportunity to be compensated by having this money spent on development of that state.
Okay, we'll see. It's going to be an interesting one, legally speaking, and we see how the Plateau and the Bayelsa case might rub off in this matter. And of course, I'm also wondering, Mr. Falana, how this will play out with the remaining almost £100 million that is remaining in the United Kingdom. But let me get another view from you. And this time around is the protest that we saw today, where Labour leaders are protesting that they will not allow the lawmakers to put on the concurrent list the issue of the minimum wage. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think it was, the protest was a very popular one, among the working people of our country, and for all progressive forces. That protest, it should be commended. Because for those who use the argument of federalism to campaign for liberalization of minimum wage so that people can pay slave wages in our country, with profound respect. That has nothing to do with federalism. That has to do with slavery. Because the United States of America is the bastion of capitalism, the bastion of federalism. The first bill that President Biden sent to the Congress is to have the minimum wage in America increase from $7.50 to $15 per hour. And that has been passed. Another law that has just been passed is the stimulus package of $1.9 trillion in that country. But here, our people are asked to tighten their belt all the time. Whether there is recession or not, for the people, they are permanently in recession in our country because of gross mismanagement of the economy of our country. Now, on this one, Chapter 2 of the Constitution provides, Section 16 provides, that workers in Nigeria shall be paid a living minimum wage Not 30,000 naira, a living minimum wage. And you will agree with me, 30,000 naira cannot be said to be a living minimum wage in Nigeria today. But even the Minimum Wage Act, enacted in 2019, has been breached by not less than 18 states. And this has nothing to do with lack of money. It's all about priority. It's about prioritizing projects, and deciding whether you want to promote the welfare of the people. So as far as I'm concerned, the protest by the labor unions today, was in order. And I do hope members of the National Assembly and the various houses of assembly in the country will appreciate the need to prevent the payment of starvation wages in our country, which is what the national minimum wage is all about.
All right. So perhaps my final question tonight with you is going to be on what I read about your comments on what the president said on the shoot-on-sight order that he gave to the military, to those who are carrying AK-47. You said that statement does not hold water. What do you mean by that? What else do you think the president should have done?
No, as far as, again, by virtue of Section 35 of the Firearms Act, the president has to make a proclamation with respect to prohibition of possession of firearms in the country, arms and ammunition. That's the law. There has to be a proclamation. It cannot be an announcement by a media aide of the president. The president has to make a declaration, sign it as if it's, issuing an executive order. And the conditions will have to be stipulated. Because what the announcement was to the fact that those who are carrying AK-47 in the bushes should be shot on sight. Again, I can never clap for any president who gives a shoot-on-sight order. We criticize President Obasanjo when he gave a shoot-on-sight order on the OPC members. We criticize President Buhari when he gave a shoot-on-sight orders on election riggers in 2019. And we made it clear then and now that there are provisions of the law dealing with, for instance, rigging of election, allegations of murder, or illegal possession of firearms. But when you say go and shoot on sight, innocent people may be shot. But once the president has declared a war, as it were, on bandits and terrorists and deploy the armed forces, it implies that anybody caught with arms and ammunition will be shot because they are killing innocent people, including children. They are kidnapping children, school children, they are kidnapping women, kidnapping other people. And so they have declared war on Nigeria. The same thing with the terrorists, And so they, in act of self-defense, the president has asked our troops and the police, to root out these dangerous criminal elements. But to now say that anybody caught with AK-47 should be shot on sight, what the law requires is that they be disarmed, arrested, and prosecuted. If found guilty, jailed.
All right.
So if the president wants to call for the death penalty, a bill has to be sent to the National Assembly for illegal possession of firearms.
It's always a pleasure to hear you speak on some of these legal issues, Mr. Femi Falana. Thank you so much indeed, Senior Advocate of Nigerian Rights Activists, for your time tonight.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.